Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into the world of Lev Landau, a physicist with this just an incredible gift. He could take the most complex, chaotic systems you can imagine, a sea of buzzing electrons roiling liquid helium,
Total chaos.
total chaos, and he turned it into something manageable. He gave us a toolkit for what he called the discipline of motion, for understanding the collective rhythm of matter.
Right. And when you look at the sources, what really stands out is that contrast. You have the messy reality of these experiments and Kharkiv crashes, breakthroughs in the liquid helium lab.
And then you have his chalkboards in Moscow.
Exactly. Clean, logical, almost surgical. He gave us the framework to pull the order right out of that chaos.
And that framework is really the mission for this deep dive. Based on his work, we're going to learn how he taught us to see organized matter. It's almost a three-step process.
It is. You have to learn how to name the key pattern.
Or the loop, as he might say. Then, how to price the leak of that pattern.
What it costs to lose coherence.
And finally, how to predict the threshold.
Yeah.
That breaking point where the rhythm either holds or just completely gives up.
To really get our heads around that, we need to shift our vocabulary a little. In Landau's world, simple ideas get a more dynamic meaning.
Like coherence.
Right. When we say coherence, we're really talking about phase order, the synchronization of all these tiny internal motions. And entropy, in this context, is just the opposite. It's phase disorder.
So you're always trading one for the other.
You're always trade. You have a coherence ledger. And you can't gain order in one place without, paying for it with disorder somewhere else.
It's the ultimate conservation principle for organization itself.
It is. And an object. An object isn't some hard little lump of stuff. It's a stable pattern of motion. Think of it like a long-lived standing wave. And that focus on rhythm, not particles, is the entire game changer.
That focus on structure brings us to, I think, his first and maybe his most important idea, the order parameter. It sounds super technical, but conceptually, it's this massive simplification.
It is.
So why was this one variable size such a revolutionary concept?
Because it lets you ignore the zoo of complexity. I mean, think about a magnet. You have billions and billions of tiny atomic spins.
A total mess.
Landau just said, forget the billions, what's the average degree of alignment? He boiled all that complexity down to that single variable psi.
So psi is like a single dial that tells you how synchronized the whole system is. An S meter, a synchronization meter.
That's a perfect way to put it, a synchronization density meter. And once he had that dial, that's when the real power came in. He wrote the free energy of the system, its total potential to do work, as a simple polynomial in psi.
So you get that famous equation, $5 plus AT is psi 2, and so on.
Right.
But wait, why is writing it out like that as a series such a powerful trick? What does that let you ignore?
It's the ultimate physicist's shortcut. Landau knew that right near a phase transition where order just starts to appear, only the simplest terms in that series actually matter. So by finding the value of psi that minimizes that free energy, you can predict exactly how the system will behave. And the key, the entire story, is in that little coefficient, AT.
Because if the sign of AT flips, say, from positive to negative as you cool things down,
then suddenly having order a non-zero psi lowers the total energy.
and order appears out of nowhere.
Spontaneously. That sign flip is the event. It's a coherence bifurcation. The system splits from a state of disorder where psi is 0 to a state of order where it's not.
But that order has to exist in space. It can't just be at one point. It needs stiffness. And that's where the next term comes in, the gradient term.
Exactly. This is the overdot 922 term. That's phase stiffness. It's the energy price you have to pay for neighboring regions of your material to be slightly out of sync.
It resists things falling out of line.
It resists defects. It keeps the rhythm uniform. And this leads to, really, the core insight here. Order is a budget decision. You pay stiffness to save entropy. You're always making that trade.
That idea of a budget becomes so much more concrete when we talk about superfluidity. Let's get into superfluid helium-4. This is motion that seems to have zero friction. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, this is one of the most beautiful examples of his thinking. So he proposes the two-fluid model. He says, below a certain temperature, liquid helium acts like two fluids moving through each other.
Two fluids.
Yeah. You have a supercomponent, which is perfectly phase-locked, zero viscosity, zero entropy.
The ideal ordered fluid.
And then you have a normal component, which is just all the random thermal excitations, the messy stuff.
So if that supercomponent is so perfect, why doesn't it just flow forever no matter how fast it's going? When does the friction actually kick in?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer is the Landau criterion. It gives you a hard, physical speed limit. The flow stays completely lossless only until its speed crosses a critical velocity, $.
Okay, so what does that actually mean in, physical terms? What's happening at that speed?
It means the flow is moving just slow enough that it can't spontaneously create new disturbances. It doesn't have enough energy to create the little waves or particles, the phonons and rotons, that would carry away its momentum.
So below $80, there are no compatible leak channels.
The leak channels just aren't open for business. The system's coherence is protected.
And that's what we mean when we say pricing the leak. If you go too fast, you've paid the price, and the channel opens.
That's it, exactly. Above $80, the flow can create those excitations. The organized motion starts breaking down into smaller, chaotic loops. You get an immediate gain in entropy. That's what friction is, the big, organized rhythm dissipating into many small, incoherent ones.
And we can see this in the lab.
Oh, yeah. You run tests with these tiny nanoapertures, and you see a distinct kink in the flow. A sudden onset of coherence-cost, right at the predicted speed. It's perfect.
Okay, let's shift from atoms to an even denser crowd, the electrons in a metal. Landau also completely changed how we see them with his Fermi liquid theory. How can these electrons, which are all repelling each other violently, ever manage to behave?
They behave because, as one of the sources puts it, they've learned manners. Through all their collective interactions, each electron starts to move as if it were an individual, what we call a quasiparticle.
But it's not really an individual.
No, and that's the key. It carries a memory of the crowd with it. It acts like a lone particle, but it's dressed in the interactions of all its neighbors.
So what's the lens here from our framework?
A Fermi liquid is a shell of high synchronization loops right at the edge of the energy distribution, the Fermi surface. The quasiparticle is just a small, stable ripple in that highly coherent shell.
And the collective beat of that shell gives rise to things like zero sound. Now, this is not the sound we normally think of, which comes from collisions.
No, not at all. Normal sound is thermal. It needs particles to bump into each other to propagate. Zero sound is a phase wave. It's the whole electron crowd deforming its collective rhythm, and that wave travels faster than the particles can even collide. It's the crowd moving as one.
And what happens when that crowd loses its rhythm, when the synchronization fails?
Then you get what are called Pomeranchuk instabilities. These are genuine synchronization failures. The interactions get too strong, or the conditions change, and the crowd just can't maintain that unified phase agreement anymore.
So it has to retune itself.
It's forced to retune. It might form density waves or change its symmetry into something new like a nematic order. It's the electron community desperately trying to find a new rhythm that it can actually sustain.
And lab work backs this up. If you inject phase noise, literally mess with the rhythm, the quasiparticle lifetime just plummets.
Right. It shows the cost of losing coherence. You can draw a direct line between the rate of coherence deficit you impose and the rate of entropy gain you measure.
This idea of the order parameter of psi, it just exploded with the Ginzburg-Landau theory of superconductivity. Here, psi gets an explicit phase term. It becomes psi-dat phi, psi-data phi.
And that changes everything. Introducing that phase, phi, takes us from just measuring the amount of order to defining the nature and orientation of the order. This is where topology really enters the story.
Because once you have a phase that's defined everywhere in space, you can get these twists. You can get vortices.
Vortices are absolutely critical. They're what we would call topological phase debts. They're tiny regions where coherence drops to zero, but around that core, the phase is forced to wind by a full 2pi. The material has a kind of unpayable IOU in its phase.
Wow. But the most stunning consequence of this has to be the Josephson effect. This connects that microscopic phase difference directly to a macroscopic voltage.
It's a phase difference engine. If you maintain a steady phase mismatch across a thin insulating barrier, a weak link, it doesn't just sit there. It drives a current that oscillates back and forth.
And the frequency of that oscillation
is directly, and I mean directly, proportional to the voltage you apply. The equation is $5 to a stat VI.
That's just profound. You're seeing a measure of timer rate, a frequency written explicitly as a voltage. Phase isn't some abstract math anymore. It's a physical thing that dictates rhythm.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the whole framework. Potential energy is being translated directly into the rate of phase rotation.
So let's wrap this all up with maybe the most counterintuitive phenomenon he ever described. Landau damping. Damping without any collisions. This sounds like it should be impossible.
It sounds like magic, but it's just brilliant. So in a plasma, you have these collective waves moving through all the charged particles. Landau showed that if a particle happens to be traveling at the exact same speed as the wave's phase,
It can surf the wave.
it surfs the wave. And in doing so, it steals energy from the wave without a single physical collision taking place.
That's what we call phase mixing.
It's pure phase mixing. The particles are absorbing the collective rhythm of the wave and making it their own individual rhythm.
Which is why the source material has that amazing line, Landau damping. Waves don't die, they become people.
Exactly. The big organized loop, the wave, transfers its coherence to countless small, individual loops, the particles. It's just a transfer of organization from one scale to another. And this conceptual leap, this way of seeing the world, is the real discipline of the Landau school.
It wasn't just about grinding through equations.
No, it was about learning how to see identity in spectra and cause in rates.
And that discipline is the big takeaway. He taught physicists how to strip any problem down to its core pattern, its order parameter, and then write the free energy map that shows where order can live and where it has to pay a price.
The modern refinement, the motion theory framework, just makes that price explicit. You add a coherence-entropy term into the free energy, and suddenly things like memory or hysteresis, they aren't weird folklore anymore. They're just phase budget dynamics.
So what does it all mean? Landau showed us that matter is, at its heart, a book of rhythms. If you can find the key rhythm, that variable psi, you can predict the system's fate.
His legacy is that constant audit of S, R, and C, synchronization, rate, and coherence. It's really the physics of organizational survival.
As we close the ledger on this deep dive, here's a final thought. The sources mention a theoretical test called the Landau level phase pump. The idea is that you can modulate a synthetic field and force a fixed flow of coherence from the middle of a material to its edges. Even topology has to obey a budget.
So for you, the listener, the question is this. Think about a structure in your own life, a long-standing habit, a relationship, a demanding routine, something that maintains a very high degree of coherence. What is the constant unseen price it's paying right now in entropy? What's your daily coherence budget?